What's up guys, today we're going to be watching Introduction to Warcraft's Old Gods, playing Risk of Rain 2. For this video, first time, I'm actually going to be doing difficulty monsoon. And I'm going to be doing this as the engineer, and when I start the video, I think you know why. Difficulty, not so much for the engineer.
You will die.
Let's say you will die.
Your friends will abandon you.
This is a video series by Lawhor. Actually a very cool
You are weak.
YouTube channel.
It was
What I'm going to be doing on this run is recording as much as I can get. I want to completely clear and really drag out,
into the heart of Azeroth lie powerful
especially
beings,
the
malicious and ancient.
early
Born
stages.
from nightmare, they strive to corrupt the land and rule the minds of
As at the
those
start, as you'll
on
see,
the surface.
we're very weak.
Imprisoned for thousands of years, they've
Anyway.
not been idle and are now reawakening to put into action plans prepared long ago.
Pay attention to the video.
The old gods featured in the Warcraft series take inspiration from the old ones of
Just turn this down
Lovecraft's
a little
Cthulhu mythos. They pose a significant threat to the heroes of Warcraft, on par with the threat presented by the Burning Legion. In fact, according to legend, 3 old gods ruled over the universe's primal plane, in a bloody chaos that even the lords of the Burning Legion could not comprehend. When the Titans came to clash with the old gods, the ensuing war was on a cosmic scale, and only when the Titans cast the 3 old gods into eternal imprisonment was their reign ended. The locations and identities of these legendary old gods are unknown. It isn't clear whether the story resembles an actual history of the Warcraft universe, or just a legend passed down by the inhabitants of Azeroth in awe and terror of the power of the old gods. What is known, however, is that a group of old gods once ruled the face of a primordial Azeroth, overseeing what some now call the Black Empire. These old gods enslaved the elementals that roamed Azeroth, pitting them against each other for the sake of chaos. Several of their names are etched in Azeroth's history. Cthulhu, Lord of Anchorage; Yogg-Saron, the Beast with 1,000 Maws; Y'Shaarj, Scourge of Pandaria; and N'Zoth, as mysterious as he is manipulative. These old gods are eldritch horrors, with visages terrible enough to plunge mortals into madness. During their reign, 3 of these old gods waged a tireless war, using the forces at their disposal. Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron allied against the largely mysterious N'Zoth. Their fighting ensured that Azeroth was left in raw chaos. When the Titans arrived at Azeroth on their journey through the cosmos, they found a hostile welcome in the Elementals. The Elemental Lords sought to drive the Titans off Azeroth for the sake of their masters. When the Titans learned of the seething evil lurking in Azeroth, they struggled and eventually prevailed in defeating the old gods. The Elementals were banished to the Elemental Planes. Worlds
You didn't take much fall damage as this guy. I'm guessing it's because he uses
the old
jetpacks.
gods they tried to kill, creating Mogu to slay the old
You
god
might take
Y'Shaarj,
quite a
and
bit of
send
fall
a lone
damage if you're not
warrior
sprinting.
to battle Cthulhu. When faced with Yogg-Saron and N'Zoth, the Titans came to a realization that the world of Azeroth now lived in a strong symbiotic relationship with the old gods. Destroying the evil beings would ultimately destroy the planet. Instead of slaying the old gods, they imprisoned them, hoping to contain their evil for many millennia to come. They left Azeroth, leaving watchers and defenders to care for Azeroth in their absence. They also left failsafes, to warn them should the planet fall under the old gods' foul corruption once more. As it stands, the current histories brought forth through the universe and its creators account for only 4 old gods on Azeroth. It's not fully known how many old gods call Azeroth home. The Warcraft 3 manual states that 5 old gods were chained beneath the world, and the War of the Ancients book trilogy had Crassus claiming there were 3 old gods, now allied in an attempt to free themselves of their prison. The most accepted belief seems to be that there were originally 5 old gods reigning over Azeroth: Cthulhu, within the city of Anchorage; Yogg-Saron, imprisoned within the ancient Titan city of Ulduar; Y'Shaarj, slain by the Titans and the last of its taint recently cleansed with the destruction of its heart; N'Zoth, its location only speculated, but its influence vast; and a 5th, as of yet unnamed old god, with an unknown location and hidden influence. Beyond the 5 old gods of Azeroth, however, lies a chilling realization. The old gods came to Azeroth in its primordial state, originating from a mysterious lair out in the cosmos. Evidence shows of an old god nearly being summoned to the shattered world of the Outland by the Arakoa, and hints have been given that the Titans encountered and defeated countless old gods in their journeys through the cosmos. Could there be a world, or another plane of existence, that a race of old gods call home, teeming with beings just as powerful, just as influential as those looming over Azeroth? Or perhaps they travel the cosmos, seeking worlds like Azeroth to consume and control, as seemingly infinite as the stars. Questions that truly haunt the imagination. In the next video, we will take a closer look at the lore of the most well-known old god, the Lidless Eye, the Lord of the Karaji, the powerful entity known as Cthulhu.
Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah. Seen it. Let's watch it again. Shit.
You will die.
The 5 old gods of Azeroth rarely work together, instead exerting their power individually, often warring amongst themselves, and rarely forming alliances with one another. When the Titans fought the old gods, some believe they only prevailed due to their united front against the divided forces of the old gods. As such, each of the old gods carry their own unique history and influence throughout Azeroth's many millennia of conflict. And the first old god to become a modern threat to Azeroth was the freshly awoken god, Cthulhu. Cthulhu was the old god presumed slain by the Soul Titan warrior in the land that would become Silithus. There it slept for centuries, biding its time, planning its revenge. During its patient rest, it began to assimilate the insectoid creatures that called the area home. It is believed by scholars within the Warcraft universe, namely the well-known Bran Bronzebeard, that when the old gods ruled Azeroth, they created the race of Akir. The Akir lived in their civilization of Ajakir, which warred often with the 2 major troll empires, the Gurubashi and the Amani. The Akir were eventually broken, their members fleeing to lands that would one day become Silithus, Northrend, and Pandaria. It was those that fled to Silithus that came under the scrutiny of Cthulhu. The Akir who first arrived in Silithus had quickly conquered an ancient Titan research facility, the very same facility where Cthulhu had found refuge beneath. The old god shaped the Akir to his will, birthing from them the intelligent race of the Karaji and the overwhelming tide of Silithid. This research facility, redubbed the Great Kingdom Anchorage, would become their home, and it would be there that their forces grew, waiting for the day they could exact revenge on the trolls. Once their power was deemed mighty enough for a decisive victory, Cthulhu and his Karaji lieutenants unleashed their armies upon the continent of Kalimdor. This time, however, it was not the trolls that stood in their way, but the Night Elves instead. For months the elves fought under Commander Fandral Staghelm, consistently being pushed back by the Karaji. The Night Elves were pushed back into Ungoro, which the Karaji found difficult to take as they had Silithus. The Night Elves eventually held their ground on the borders of Ungoro and Tenaris. Fandral requested the aid of the nearby Bronze Dragonflight, and was initially denied. The Kiraji made a fatal mistake, however, and attacked the Caverns of Time. Anachronos, son and heir to Nosdormu, led the forces of the Bronze Dragonflight to fight side by side with the Night Elves, and eventually called on the other remaining Dragonflights for assistance. Through a grueling battle, they beat the Kiraji back to their kingdom. Merithra, Kael'straz, and Aragos, along with some elvish companions, continued the push into the city, buying time for a barrier to be erected. In a great display of effort, the Night Elf priestesses and druids, alongside the remaining dragons, erected the enormous scarab wall to contain the menace of the Karaji. Anachronos, foreseeing the need to one day venture into the city, created a gong and a scepter. Should the gong ever be rung by the scepter, the barrier would fall, and the forces of the Karaji would be unleashed once more. The war, known as the War of the Shifting Sands, was fought and won without knowing that an old god was behind the scene. Once more, Cthulhu waited patiently. Fortunately, 1,000 years later, the races of Azeroth recognized the threat that the seemingly dormant Encourage posed was anything but contained. Rumors surfaced of an old god residing in the city. The Scepter of the Shifting Sands was rebuilt, the gong was rung by the Night Elf Shiromar, and the gates were opened. The heroes of Azeroth, the millions of players of the MMO, assaulted the ruins and the temple of Encourage, and found Cthulhu in his chamber deep beneath the sands. There, they witnessed the horror that is an old god. Cthulhu's body is a fleshy wall inset with shifting eyes, topped with horrible teeth, and sporting hideous mouths and undulating tentacles. It is surrounded by a pool of utter darkness, and a writhing sea of more tentacles tipped with claws and their own malicious eyes, waiting to zap anyone foolish enough to draw near. Those unfortunate enough to be swallowed by the old god will face a stomach lined with burning acids and, again, more tentacles. And, hidden within the wall of fleshy horrors, is one massive, lidless eye, reminiscent of the Eye of Sauron, and bearing a similar, penetrating gaze to drive any mortal mad. This is his form visible above the floors of the Karaji temple. His body possibly stretches far beneath the surface, stretching a vast radius under the surface of Azeroth. This likely also extends his sphere of influence far beyond the arid sands of Silithus. Cthulhu was defeated by Azeroth's heroes, but not killed, and may be becoming active once more. The Ogre and Twilight Hammer cultist Cho'Gall made an attempt at resurrecting Cthulhu's body, but was stopped by the Guardian of Tirisfal, Medan. More recently, a quest overhaul of Silithus, with many quests concerning Cthulhu, was added in the PTR for patch 4.1.0, but never made it into the full game. It is even possible that Cthulhu had some subtle influence on the events that took place in the Twilight Highlands surrounding the Twilight Hammer cult. It seems clear, at any rate, that the developers are not done with this particular old god. It would be easy to underestimate the danger the old gods pose to Azeroth when considering Cthulhu's demise at the hands of a small band of mortals, but one must keep in mind that Cthulhu was severely weakened many ages ago by the Titans, and entrapped within Encourage by the Scarab Wall. Most likely, Cthulhu was displaying an infinitesimal fraction of its true power. A fully powered Cthulhu would truly be a force to thoroughly fear. In the next video, we will turn our attentions north, to the old god imprisoned under the peaks of Northrend, the fiend of 1,000 faces, the beast with 1,000 maws, Yogg-Saron.
Oh, yeah. That will be a good one. Pause the video here, guys. Swap. We're going to switch to Yogg-Saron. We're going to go to the next stage.